Imagine being born into a world where creativity is a dangerous thing. Where telling stories could get you in trouble. Now, imagine breaking out of that world and becoming one of the most legendary filmmakers in Hollywood history. This is the story of Miloš Forman, a Czech boy who lost everything, fought against the system, and gave us films that changed cinema forever. From the madness of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest to the genius of Amadeus, this is a story of rebellion, freedom, and film magic. Welcome to Check This Story, where we explore the stories of famous people, groundbreaking inventions, historical facts, and sometimes even mysteries that remain unexplained. So, if you don't want to miss a single story, hit the subscribe button and don't forget to turn on notifications. Forman was a master at capturing human nature in all its complexity, blending humor, rebellion, and social critique into masterpieces that challenged audiences around the world.
Věnujte mi chvilku pozornost. Stala se nám taková nepříjemná věc. Nechci to tady roztahovat a nechci z toho taky dělat aferu. Někdo nám zebral z tomboly několik cen. Nemůžeme pokračovat. My teďko zhasneme, bude tma. V této nastalé tmě ten, kdo to zcizil, to tam odnese. No ne, ještě nezačínej, ještě ne, ještě jsem nedomluvil. Rozsvít, no nezačínejte, rozsvíťte. Co to? To je nějaký nedorozumění. Tady jsou nějaký vtipálkové. Jasně jsem řekl, bude tma, až se zhasne, tak ti, co to zebrali, to odnesou na své místo. A neobráceně.
Today, we'll journey through his life and explore how his style evolved, from the politically charged films of his Czech New Wave days to the global success of his Hollywood triumphs. Miloš Forman was born in 1932 in Cuckoo, Czechoslovakia. His early years were overshadowed by war and loss. At just 9 years old, his world was shattered when the Nazis arrested his parents. His father was a resistance fighter, and his mother was accused of dealing in illegal books. Both were sent to concentration camps, and neither ever returned. Miloš was left an orphan in a country ravaged by war. But rather than break him, this loss became the foundation for his creative spirit. It was in the dark movie theaters of post-war Czechoslovakia that Miloš found a world where stories could be told, where the impossible could come true, and where rebellion against tyranny was possible, even if it was only on screen. The early pain of losing his family, combined with the political turbulence of his homeland, would shape the filmmaker he would become, one who would later create films about the power of the individual, the fight against oppressive systems, and the beauty and tragedy of human nature. The 1960s in Czechoslovakia were a time of artistic rebellion. Inspired by the French New Wave, a new generation of filmmakers sought to push boundaries, telling raw, honest, and often irreverent stories. Miloš Forman became a prominent figure in this movement with films like Black Peter, 1964, Loves of a Blonde, 1965, and The Fireman's Ball, 1967. These films, though comedic, were more than just entertainment, they were deeply political. Forman's ability to combine humor with social commentary was unparalleled. In The Fireman's Ball, for example, he used absurdity to critique the bureaucratic inefficiencies and incompetencies of the communist regime. But the government didn't find it funny. The film was banned, and Forman quickly became persona non grata in his home country. Despite this, these early films reveal Forman's core style, naturalism, dark humor, and a sharp eye for the absurdities of everyday life. He had an uncanny ability to capture the tensions between individual desires and societal expectations. His characters were often ordinary people in extraordinary situations, forced to navigate oppressive systems with a mix of wit and frustration. But the pressure from the communist government grew unbearable. In 1968, When Soviet tanks rolled into Prague to crush the Prague Spring, Forman found himself at a crossroads. His films, already banned and censored, could no longer be made in Czechoslovakia. Despite the backlash at home, The Fireman's Ball gained international acclaim and was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. And so, he left for the West, seeking the freedom to tell the stories that were being stifled at home. When Forman arrived in the United States in the late 1960s, he had no idea what to expect. He spoke little English, had no job, and was starting from scratch in a foreign land. His first American film, Taking Off, 1971, about rebellious teenagers, didn't exactly set the world on fire. It flopped at the box office, and Forman found himself back on the couch of a friend's apartment in New York, wondering if he'd ever get a chance to prove himself. But Hollywood wasn't done with him yet. In 1975, he was offered the chance to direct One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, an adaptation of Ken Kesey's novel about a man rebelling against the stifling.
I don't know if I believe in fate, but I certainly believe in luck. You have to be lucky in some way. My luck started really with Kirk Douglas. He came to Prague. They showed him some films. Among them, Loves of a Blonde, they showed him. There was a small party. He came to me and said, "May I send you a book? And you read it, and you tell me if you'd be interested to make a movie." What happened was that he really sent the book. But the censors at the border, confiscated the book and didn't tell him and didn't tell me. And 10 years later, the same book is coming to me from Kirk Douglas's son, Michael, who didn't know that 10 years earlier Kirk was sending me the same book. So I guess there must be some kind of a strange fate involved, or luck, or whatever it is. When I read the book, I suddenly realized, my God, are they so smart to know that this book is about my country? This book is about life I lived in communist country. Communist Party was my big nurse, telling me what to do, telling me what to say, telling me what to think, behave the way they, want me to. I knew what this book is about. And it was very, very, and the end of the book, that was the dream of every young man in communist Czechoslovakia.
Forman's direction was key to the film's success. His unique ability to blend drama and humor, a style he had honed back in Czechoslovakia, was perfect for the material. He understood the psychology of rebellion, of what it means to fight back against authority, and he captured that struggle in a way that felt deeply personal yet universally relatable. The film was a critical and commercial success, winning 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Forman.
When I want to think what possible reasons I'm here now, I can find 2. The first is that this year the Academy members recognized the fact that last year I spent more time in mental institution than the others. And the second might be that, but America still is big, beautiful, hospitable, and open country. I thank you so, Michael, Jack, Louise, Ken Kesey, and especially I want to thank all those whose names I don't have time to mention now. Thank you.
For Forman, Cuckoo's Nest wasn't just a movie, it was a reflection of everything he had experienced. It was a testament to his ability to turn his personal struggles with oppression into art that could resonate with people around the world, but Forman wasn't done. After the success of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Hollywood took notice. After the triumph of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Forman took on a bold new challenge, bringing the revolutionary spirit of the 1960s to the big screen with Hair, 1979. This adaptation of the iconic Broadway musical captured the energy of the counterculture movement, blending music, protest, and youthful rebellion in a visually striking and emotionally powerful way.
I got life, mother. I got life, sister. I got freedom I got good times, man.
Though Hair was not a major box office success at the time, it later gained cult status as one of the greatest musical films ever made. Forman continued to explore stories of outsiders and nonconformists with Ragtime, 1981, an ambitious period drama based on E.L. Doctorow's novel. The film, featuring a mix of real and fictional characters from early 20th century America, tackled themes of race, class, and justice. Ragtime was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, further solidifying Forman's reputation as a master storyteller. In 1984, Forman directed Amadeus, a lush biographical drama about the genius of composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and his rivalry with fellow composer Antonio Salieri.
Taxi, I learned that we are going to see a play about a composer. And I thought I'm going to faint, you know.
Miloš made a great fuss and said, oh no, I hate biographies of musicians and that kind of thing. I loathe it. No, I'm not coming.
I saw so many, you know, in communist countries, they love to make movies about composers because composers don't talk. They make music, they don't say anything subversive. So I was prepared for a, painful evening. The curtain went up and there is this wonderful drama.
And he said to me, with the marvelous directness that characterizes him, if the second act is as good as the first, I will make a movie of it.
The film was a major departure from the political themes of his earlier works but still held a fascination with genius, envy, and the individual's struggle against the system. Unlike most biographical films, Amadeus was more than just a historical recounting of Mozart's life. It was a psychological drama, examining the destructive effects of genius and the way societal systems can both elevate and destroy individuals. One of the most interesting aspects of Amadeus is that Forman chose to film much of it in Prague, Czechoslovakia, his homeland. At the time, Czechoslovakia was still under communist rule, making it a unique and challenging choice.
My first impressions were enormous and huge. I felt like I was in a grade B spy movie. Followed everywhere, hotel rooms bugged, and half the crew was secret police. And everybody knew it. And afterwards, I don't remember his name, but he was sort of smarmy cop, obviously cop. And he said, pineapple? And I had learned the Czech word for pineapple. It's ananas, it's the same word as in French. I said, yes, ananas. And he said, ah, yes, in the can. I said, no, real, fresh ananas. He said, fresh pineapple? Fresh ananas? And then for the next 20 minutes, I watch it go around the set. And they're all doing the same gesture at the end of the exchange. They're going, in the can. And the teller of the story says, no, fresh ananas. And they all and looked at me and I think they were the only 2 pineapples in Prague that January.
However, Forman insisted on filming there because Prague still retained its 18th century architectural charm, with minimal modernization compared to Western European cities. The production used historical locations, including the Estates Theatre, where Mozart himself had premiered Don Giovanni in 1787.
When we first time arrived to Prague for location, and they showed us the theater, we were there, with Peter Shaffer and Saul, when suddenly I realized, well, Peter Shaffer disappeared. Where is Peter Shaffer? We found him in the corridor, hidden, crying. Because he learned that he is standing exactly at the place where Mozart himself in person conducted the world premiere of Don Giovanni.
There's something that happens when you do that, I promise you, when you do it in the place, in the atmosphere. I'm not crazy about, spiritual, ghosts and things. But I don't deny them.
It was 4th of July, and of course, that's not a holiday there, So we were working and we were shooting opera scene. The camera was behind the stage, over the singers and dancers, seeing the whole theater full of audience, So we had like 500 extras there. And so I said, roll it, playback. And suddenly, instead of Mozart's music, American national anthem starts to play.
And out of the flies came this huge American flag and unrolled, unfurled on the stage. And 600 Czechs stood up and sang the national anthem of the United States and knew the words.
I get goose pimples when I think about it. All the extras stood up and either sang or hummed the Star-Spangled Banner with us.
All stood up except 30 men and women standing, panic on their face, looking at each other what they should do. That were the secret police, dispersed among the extras,
And I was sitting there thinking, good God, the army's going to come and we're all going to go to jail.
The film was a massive success, winning 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Forman.
Miloš Forman for Amadeus.
I want to thank the whole company of actors and the whole company behind the camera, namely Twyla Tharp, Neville Mariner, Miroslav Ondříček, and Wolfgang Mozart. I have to greet my colleagues and students at the Columbia University Film Department. And finally, I'm very proud because this is an American movie on which a lot of Czechoslovakian artists and technicians collaborated. To get this kind of recognition from the members of Academy for this kind of collaboration, I think it's very encouraging for more than artistic or box office reasons. Thank you very much.
His films, though often biographical, were always about the psychology of the outsider, the rebel, the misfit. While in The People vs. Larry Flynt, 1996, he took on the controversial life of the adult magazine publisher, championing freedom of speech and individual expression. These films were more than just stories, they were reflections on the power of the individual to fight back against oppression, against the system. In his later years, Forman's films became more personal, reflecting his own experiences of exile. He continued to make films that challenged audiences, often using humor and absurdity to soften the impact of the more serious social and psychological themes. In Man on the Moon, 1999, Forman explored the eccentric life of comedian Andy Kaufman, a man who, like Forman himself, pushed boundaries and challenged conventional norms.
Here's this mighty sound. Here I come to save the day. That means the tiny mouse is on the way. Yes, sir, when...
Forman was married 3 times. His first 2 marriages, one to actress Jana Brejkova, a star of Loves of a Blonde, and later to singer Vera Krzydlova, ended in divorce. With Krzydlova, he had twin sons, Petr and Matej, but after his emigration to the United States in 1968, the communist regime refused to let them visit their father, effectively separating them for much of their childhood. As the sons of a high-profile defector, they faced restrictions and were seen with suspicion by the authorities. In a symbolic moment of change, Petr and Matej were finally allowed to visit their father in the United States for the 1985 Academy Awards, where they watched him win the Oscar for Best Director for Amadeus. Both of whom later became successful in the entertainment industry. After emigrating to the United States in 1968, Forman built a new life in Hollywood but remained deeply connected to his Czech roots. In 1999, he married Martina Zborilova, a fellow Czech, with whom he had another set of twins, Andrew and James. Despite living much of his life abroad, he frequently returned to the Czech Republic and maintained a home there. Miloš Forman passed away in 2018, but his legacy lives on. His films not only helped define a generation of filmmakers but also gave voice to the rebels and outsiders who, much like him, had the courage to challenge authority. In his work, we see a filmmaker deeply engaged with the human condition, someone who understood the importance of the individual in a world that often tries to silence them. As Forman once said, "I'm always asked why I make films about rebels. Maybe it's because I grew up in a world where rebellion was the only way to survive." His life and work are a testament to the power of film to make sense of the world around us, to challenge the status quo, and to remind us that, no matter how difficult, rebellion is often the only way to change things. This was Check This Story. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the life of a true cinematic pioneer. And remember, history is full of rebels, if you just know where to look.